The member for Melbourne Ports.
Thank you very much, Speaker. What a remarkable juxtaposition we saw on the weekend in the nation's two most populous cities. In Melbourne, the nation's cultural capital, the Victorian government supported White Night. The city was open from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Live music across the city, art installations, street parties, 500,000 revellers of all age passing through the city. A credit to the Victorian government, including my friend the Minister for Creative Industries, Martin Foley. It kept Melbourne ahead of the pack, not just as the most livable city, but as the most culturally vibrant. In Sydney, by contrast, a protest of 10,000 people was held to keep Sydney open, protesting the lockout laws imposed by the previous Premier, now defended wholeheartedly by neo-Puritan Mike Baird. Baird has really poked the bear, as it were, with his recent Facebook post defending laws which attracted over 17,000 comments, mostly angry Sydney-siders fed up with the laws. Now Queensland looks like to follow New South Wales's lead, impose its own lockout, and Senator the Brick Lazarus wants a national lockout law. The problem is that, just like those shorts Senator Lazarus wore to his ABC interview yesterday, Sydney's lockout laws aren't one size fits all. Indeed, Victoria was the first state to try lockout laws. In 2008, the Brumby government trialled a 2 a.m. lockout, which was scrapped after just 3 months. There were many reasons the lockout didn't work, but the main point is that it pushed people outside, isolated drunk people in the streets, walking around aimlessly, frustrated they couldn't get in anywhere. It put pressure on police to protect the streets. Inside a bar or a club, we know responsible service or alcohol restrictions apply. We know all clubs have security. I suspect most parents would agree with me that while we'd love our kids to be in bed by 12, I'd prefer them to be inside rather than outside a licensed premise drinking or dancing. And of course the high prices inside ought to slow drinking down. After all, police report that for approximately every 1,000 assaults in the Melbourne CBD, only 3 are inside licensed premises. The New South Wales Premier says assault rates are down in his city. True, but patronage and traffic in the areas affected are affected massively. Of course, less people in those areas means less assaults, but that doesn't balance it with the negative impact these lockouts have on the economy, on jobs, on hospitality, on the viability of artistic venues. What will happen to the Oxford Art Factory if it closes down? It might not affect the Premier, who would prefer Taylor Swift at Olympic Park, but what are the fans in smaller acts not big enough to fill the ANZ Stadium or Rod Laver Arena? Will these smaller acts popular on Triple J or FBI radio skip without sufficient small music venues, or will they just skip Australia altogether? The tragic deaths of young men coward punched by drunken louts in Sydney that precipitated these lockout laws occurred early in the night. Thomas Kelly was fatally assaulted in King's Cross at 10 p.m. His killer, according to the Saturday paper, had been pre-drinking since 5 p.m. Daniel Christie's life was cut short by a coward punch at 9 p.m. These were tragic events. We all feel the devastation of our communities in seeing such promising young lives cut short by drunken violence, but we also see that the problem is not at a particular time or place, nor is it accessed in licensed venues. There are other issues at hand here, and there are always ways of tackling alcohol-fuelled violence without forcing the closure of the entire nightlife of a city. The easiest thing to do is not always the smartest. Lockouts are easy and they are popular, but they have side effects. Victoria succeeds without lockouts because police work with licensees. The late Police Inspector Tony Warren helped set up the Melbourne Licensees Forum, and there are many visionary police officers who've helped since. They work together to combat violence. Move on laws with appropriate fines, increased police presence, safety officers are all measures that can and do work to reduce violence in the streets. Another great measure in Melbourne has been the 24-hour public transport on weekends, giving young people a chance to get home quickly and safely without having to clamour for a taxi or hang around for hours drunk on the streets waiting for morning services. We also need to consider that if people get off lightly for less serious but still violent offences, the wrong message is being sent. There is little point doubling sentences for killers but giving good behaviour bonds to people who throw punches but are lucky that their victims don't fall and hit their heads. All punches are dangerous and all punches kill. It's never okay to throw a punch. Perhaps New South Wales Premier should learn from Victoria. You don't need to gut the nightlife, force places to close, licensees to lose customers, and young people to have nowhere to go to curb violence. Victoria should keep its present laws, keep supporting the arts, music and a vibrant nightlife. Others will fall behind.
Expired. I call the member for